Hey, Dustin Tibbetts here, financial advisor with Jazz Wealth Managers. How you doing today? Hope you're having a good day out there. If you have target date funds, last week we did a video on those target date funds talking, well, we've done a bunch of them actually, but we did one about the 2050 target date fund performance. We went through, and actually I'll just see if I can share it with you. Yeah. So here's one of the slides we showed where we looked at the target date fund performance and we said, look, if we list all these 2050 target date funds here, yikes, there's a big difference between the underperformer and the overperformer. And I broke it down even further to show you the risk that you're taking for the returns, looking at the American funds returns versus the risk that you're taking, and so on and so on. And so, that got a lot of questions. People were saying, well, how come we can't just choose the risk we want to take? Well, there's actually some changes coming up for you, so I'll go over those. But if you're not familiar with how target date funds, I'll just share with you here real quick how they perform, because this is why there's a difference, right? It's not because they're bad, it's because they get to choose their risk a little bit. So we'll kind of go through that. Target date fund basically says what type of risk are we going to take until we hit the target date. And so this would be the deadline here where someone says they're going to retire. 2050 fund, of course, 2050 would be the target retirement, but they don't end from there. You could hang on to them and we could go into 1 year after retirement, 5 years, 10 years, etc. They assume you're going to hang on to that fund. So what's the level of risk we take pre-retirement and the level of risk we take post-retirement? So for example, let's say this is -5, -10, -15. I'm just going to make it sloppy for now. And so funds determine their risk level. That's why some of those funds were performing a little bit better than others. They hold on to their taking more risk longer, whereas some funds say, we'll take more risk now, but we're going to start decaying that risk until we get to retirement. So you see something like this for one fund that says, okay, we're going to take less risk as we get to retirement, and then we're going to flatten that risk out, right? Some other funds out there may say, we're going to take risk longer and decay just a little bit longer, and then really send it off there at the end. Others take a more straight line approach, and just sort of, if you were to look at it, you would see something like this. And so it really depends on the fund. Well, that's unfortunate, because what if you're someone that says, I'll take this, but I don't want this, and you're simply limited because of your 401k, meaning you can't change your mind. You're not allowed to do anything different because you only have one target date fund to choose. Well, actually, there's a new thing coming out. A company called One America is starting to work with BlackRock and a few others. And what they're doing is they're saying, let's categorize the target date funds. Let's say that there's a 2050 aggressive target date fund, a 2050 moderate, a 2050 conservative, a 2050 ultra conservative. And what they're saying is basically we'll just set the profiles up like this. If someone wants to be aggressive, let them be aggressive. That'll be that profile. If somebody wants to be less aggressive, more moderate, this will be their profile, and they can choose that. If someone wants to be conservative, it'll look more like this, right, as you get towards the end. Pretty cool, I thought. And so look for those to start coming to your target date funds here soon. Now, if you're curious what your target date fund does, let's try it. So let's go like this. I'll give you a general overview of how some of these target date funds work, like your Vanguards, Fidelities, things like that. If you were to plot them on a chart, you guys know I always say the Vanguard target date funds are more conservative. They're more conservative, but they hold on to that conservative risk a little bit longer. So for example, if you were to plot Vanguard on a chart, what you would see is that Vanguard would be more conservative than most, but they wouldn't let go of it until the very bitter end, and then they get really conservative. So you're not getting the best performance out of the beginning, as you saw if you watched that video just a little bit. That's okay, not pretty, that's what you choose from. So that's what Vanguard would do, right? And that's how they currently do it. You've got somebody like T. Rowe Price. They take more risk for sure, but they're more of a steady decliner. So if you were to plot the risk over time, this is what you'd be looking at right there if you were T. Rowe Price. So performance a little bit better in the aggressive years, but more of a steady incremental reduction of risk along the ways there. And then Fidelities, the problem with them is Fidelities funds, they drop off rather quickly and take less risk. So they tend to look like that if you were plotting the risk. Again, 15, 10, 5, so many years out from retirement. It's an oversimplification, I know, but I was just trying to give you an example of that and also let you know that, hey, soon you're going to be able to choose. Do you want to have a 20/50 aggressive, a 20/30 fund, aggressive? Now, it wouldn't be like super aggressive. It just means relative to the other 3 funds that they would offer, that'd be the case. So just like to point that stuff out. When it does become available, of course, we'll start tracking it. We'll measure the risk. We'll measure the volatility with you and see what we can do. I wish you guys a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate that, and enjoy the rest of your day.